Welcome for another episode of Expansion of Consciousness. I am Jason Medlock. I'm your host. Today, we're going to have a very knowledgeable and exciting guest, Dr. Lynn Carey, chiropractor, nutritionist. She does it all. She's going to be here discussing a lot of topics, a lot of things we can do to improve our daily lives and shift our energy, shift our mental, shift our daily activities into a positive direction so that you can achieve everything you want and receive everything you want out of life. But Dr. Lynn earned her doctorate in chiropractor and a bachelor degree in nutrition from Life University. She owns a practice in Wilmington, Delaware for 18 years and has traveled to Brazil and India. Dr. Carey loves empowering to create the desired life of health, wealth, and perfect self-expression. Today, she lives in Miami Beach, Florida, where she stays busy pursuing her entrepreneurial dreams and homeschooling her teenage son. Also, Dr. Lynn is the author of My Journey to Grace, Shattering Mainstream Illusions and Creating My Desired Life. And we'll get into that once I get her on. So let's go ahead and bring Dr. Lynn on. Dr. Lynn Carey, I'm glad to have you on. How are you today?
I'm great, Jason. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk with you because I'm already excited just watching your info. I mean, we're on the same page.
We're on the same page, and we both are a part of a platform that we use. And I was reading your bio. I was like, oh my God, I'm definitely wanting to speak to Dr. Carey, and I'm glad that we were able to hook up. There are a lot of different things that you do. A number of modalities that you've been involved with, finding inner peace and passion, mindset, relationships, money. You do a lot of things, and it's pretty doggone exciting. But I guess the first question I would like to ask you is, what made you decide to become a chiropractor?
Well, I think chiropractic was my saving opportunity because I had spinal surgery as a teenager for scoliosis. And if I knew what I knew today, I would have never had that. But at the time, I was just doing, what the doctors told me. And they told me it was severe and I would have to have the surgery. Well, it left me sick and in pain for years. And, not only pain, but just I was always sick with something, like strep throat, chicken pox, whatever. Like I got it, like headaches, all kinds of things. And
Right.
every time I went to the medical doctor, I kept asking, like, you give me a pill and I keep getting sick after it's done. Like, why do I keep getting sick? And I remember one just saying, well, let me just write you a stronger prescription. And I was like, but the pills aren't working. And I was just, it was like a parallel experience because it was happening at the same time. I just didn't know it, but I was just depressed with life. I didn't like what I was being shown life was. I didn't like school. My family was always working hard, but we didn't have. So they said we weren't comfortable. There was never enough. Everything was a struggle. And I was like, there's nobody happy.
Yes.
So that's just kind of that theme. So I don't know what came first. It was kind of that depression, pain, the sickness, the surgery, all this kind of stuff. I was just living in this haze. And I was looking at what to do with my life because they said, you got to go to college to be successful, right? So I'm just doing the thing. I'm doing the thing. And someone showed me chiropractic. And I read the philosophy and it said, the power that made the body heals the body. And I was like, why hasn't anybody said that to me before? And I went to chiropractic school. I didn't even get adjusted. Like I went on the philosophy. So that philosophy, and it transformed my life. And it was, I started getting adjusted and I started integrating that, the adjustments, getting the body work, getting it back in tune with my body, because Lord knows I was not probably even connected to my body at that point. It was in so much trauma. But learning the adjustments, learning the philosophy of how the body heals itself, that is what transformed my life. And it was when I lost the fear. It really wasn't one thing, but I remember it was when I believed that I could actually heal. Because I really thought, this is hopeless. I'm going to be like this the rest of my life. When I realized I could heal is when everything started to change.
Oh my God. But and that's so exciting. Just knowing that you can heal yourself. And then when people go through that level of awakening, they feel like they have to do more. And just to understand that you're able to heal, it's just a big eye-opening thing. So speaking of eye-opening, what eye-opening things happened to you when you actually opened your own practice?
Yep.
Can you
So
remember?
I always say ignorance is bliss, because I was just going to get out, open my practice because I wanted to change the world. That was really what I thought. I was 23 years old, and I thought people just don't know that they can heal themselves. And that was really the premise. I wanted to be a straight chiropractor. I didn't want to bring in things that weren't chiropractic in my eyes. I just wanted to do hand adjustments on the person and really just keep it simple, keep it affordable. I didn't want to do insurance because to me that was against my principles. I didn't like how they dictated stuff that wasn't even chiropractic. It wasn't about healing. It was about, diagnosing people and treating them. And I'm like, that's not what we do. This is different. And so I wanted to open up, but nobody taught me about money or business. And it was just like a free for all. I'm like, oh, this education, and it's like, how come nobody taught me these basic life skills? So I just started teaching myself. And that's when I came across the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book about creating positive cash flow or passive income, whether you're working or not. And I already felt the trap of my practice because I could only adjust so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing it for money. Like I didn't even connect the two. Like talk about like just so ignorant. You know what I mean? Like I knew
you got to connect money with monthly
right.
office rent.
Right. Like everything. Like I just didn't connect the dots because I was so high on my passion that I didn't bring it down to reality. And then the other thing was I saw adjusting people. I'm like, what is keeping people sick, like chronically sick? Like the same patterns, the same symptoms, the same stuff. And I'm like, because they're in the rat race, and the rat race is bigger than just money. It's
right.
The mindset. They're not dreaming anymore. They didn't find their purpose. They're just trying to survive to pay their bills.
Exactly.
And they're tired. So, and then if they're sick, they don't have time to heal, like to take off to heal, to actually rest. They don't choose the best healing path because they're doing what their insurance says. If they do anything outside that, they have to pay out of pocket. They can't afford it. So I saw this. I'm like, oh my gosh, isn't health priceless? And this is they're just spinning on this wheel. And it really upset me. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yes.
So it was like I was having a Life 101 class open in my practice. Like all these things were happening at the same time.
You spoke briefly about the struggles you went through. Can you dive down deeper into some of the struggles that led to your own self-healing journey?
Yes. So they put bars in my back, and I was lucky that they put the rod, like the Harrington rods, they took them out for some reason. Because usually once you get those in for scoliosis, they leave them in for life. And I can't even imagine the shape I would be in if they left them in for life, because they try to fuse your spine. And so they took mine out, but they already did the damage. Like they cut off pieces of the spine, all this stuff. I won't get into the details, but I just had so much pain, and it was years, like even getting adjusted. Sometimes I would be worse after the adjustment because your body is letting go of trauma, of tissue, of things that have to reawaken to heal. And my spine wasn't normal. So I remember even taking tests in front of the class because I couldn't sit. I would be standing up in front of the class. And there were periods of time where I'd have strep throat. I felt like it was like 6 months, and it would be so severe. Like my whole throat would just like close up because I was on antibiotics, because that was the protocol, antibiotics. And so my whole immune system was so shot. And there was a time where like even the painkillers didn't work, physical therapy didn't work. The adjustment wasn't a fix it, but it was working the energy of my body while I worked the energy of my mind, because I was just processing, like looking at how the body heals itself. And I realized, as we're sitting here, like our hair's growing, our heart's beating,
yes,
we're breathing, our lungs are breathing, like you're digesting food, your nails are growing, like you might have a cut somewhere, it's healing itself. Like think about all the functions that your body does every second of every day. Can you imagine if we had to consciously control that, like with our own mind?
You know what? Luckily we don't have to consciously control it. Our subconscious controls all of it.
It does it all. It does it all. So why do we go crazy? Like when we're in pain or symptom, like we look at health wrong. Like we're told like, oh, what did I get or what's going wrong, instead of
Right.
saying, okay, how am I flowing my energy? Why
Yes.
am I in this state? And
Yes.
symptoms aren't bad. It's your body's way of rebalancing. It's when you get into a chronic pattern that you have to say, okay, I'm doing something to cause this, to me to be stuck in this pattern. So that was the process of what I went through. It was years.
Mm.
And I got to a place of, I got to a place of being better. I was better. I was not in that chronic state of pain anymore. But it wasn't until I had my awakening. I kind of just went, I don't know, I guess getting all the body work done, doing all the work on myself. This was a couple of years in practice. I just went into a gray state and it lasted for like 18 months. Like I just didn't.
We have enough time to listen, hear about it.
Yeah, like I mean, there's no words, when you get to that vibration, but I knew that
Yes.
was
Yes.
everything. That was the turning point, because now I can enter life's challenges from the gray state. So it's, before there was still a desperation. Like if you had a challenge, there's like, it's a survival mode. But once you understand the gray state, which I don't know what else to say, it's just the higher vibration. I believe that's our natural state, but we've been so dumbed down in our society to not feel that place anymore, because society kind of functions at a lower level. You call it 3D maybe. I don't know if it's 4D, 5D. I don't know what level it would be, but it's just this pure blissed out love. Like it's like when you fall in love, but it's for no reason. It's not another person causing it.
So Dr. Lynn, I hate to interrupt you, but so Dr. Lynn, so this state, this gray state, is this state achieved? Do you achieve this state while you're in meditation, while you're just sitting around at the house kind of thinking, what are you doing to prepare yourself to be in this state that you're speaking of?
It wasn't one thing.
Okay.
I believe I was getting body work. I was working on people. And the more I worked on people, the lighter my touch got, because it became so energetic. I could just feel like it's energy. But I was working on myself. Like I studied Yogananda's teachings for like 3 years, but then I got to a point with him where I felt like it was limited. Like I went beyond that. I was getting shamanic work done. And then I went to a point where I felt like I evolved beyond the shaman, like her work. I could tell I was at a place past her, because she was still, I don't know. I can't explain it. And I'm not saying that from an ego place. It was like, you could just see my vibration was higher, but it just kind of, I can tell you what triggered it. When I went to Brazil 3 years in a row for like 10 days each. And we did mission work there. I went with a bunch of chiropractors. We adjusted people there.
Oh, right.
And the vibration the first year I went was so high that I never felt anything like that. It was like really intense. And when I came back to my practice or my home, I fell into a depression, because the vibration went from really high to really low. I couldn't maintain it, but I knew I tapped into something. The next year was just normal. Nothing happened. But the third year, I got really sick. I got bug bites all over my face. I had a fever. I barely made it back home. And I just let everything run its course, because at this point, I don't go to the medical doctor for anything. I don't want what they have to offer. I don't want a pill. I don't want anything cut out, because they did enough of that to me. So I just have to work on my own stuff. That's the place I'm at. And so I just let all that pass. But when it passed, it took about a week. It was the first time I could say, I feel like I have something on me. Like there's a darkness on me, and I don't know how to get rid of it. And that's when I was adjusting a lady in my office. She happened to say, "You're carrying some dark energy on you." And I just looked at her, because I didn't say anything. It was one of those, like, she was confirming my mind. She said, do Epsom salts for a week, like in a bath, and light a candle and tell all the darkness to go to the light. And I was like, I've never heard this before, but you know what? I was just open. Sounded crazy at the time, but let me tell you, after I did that, I went into a bliss state. That energy lifted. I think I was purging off. I believe when we do get symptomatic or in a diseased state, I believe your body's if you allow it, it's burning off what you don't need anymore, because we're evolving.
Exactly. I typically try to ground myself, and I, sort of think of the energy and the nutrients from the earth coming through my feet. And I try to ground as much when I feel like, I have dark energy or something like that. Otherwise, I have to go see my spiritual teacher to have her remove it.
Right. Sometimes you need help.
Yes.
But I totally agree with you. And I just went into like this. I'm like, what is happening to me? Like, you don't, when you see a problem, it wasn't a problem anymore. That's all I could say. It was almost like laughable. I was laughing at everything in life, like not outwardly, but to myself. I was just kind of like in an inward state. And it lasted for about 18 months. And then I realized I really wanted to get into, for me, I wanted to get into the money part, because I knew I wasn't free in my life. That's how I felt. I'm like, I designed a life that was set up before I had this awareness. It was like set up for me before I could really make conscious choices for what I would want in my life. And
so let's get into that. How did you take your newfound awareness and spiritual journey? How did you use it to your advantage to create wealth or create a means to live in our current third dimensional construct? How are you able to do that?
Well, what I understood, I guess my first step, and it made the most sense to me. I bought a building that I could put my practice in and rent out the other spaces. So I thought that would simplify income.
Yes.
Like, because I was very much about Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was very much about real estate. It wasn't that I was passionate about real estate, but I saw the passive income potential.
Yes.
So that's where I started, and I just kind of went on that journey and then I went kicking and screaming online. I wasn't an online person at the time. I was one of those, like, that's where I feel old when it comes to that. I've never been like a tech person, but life changes and you have to go with it. But I was one of the last ones on. So that's where I started, and it was not easy. It's just a learning curve. Like, but the funny part is, like, I'm looking at the learning curve, like, the joy is in the learning curve. I mean, it was just an adventure. Life became an adventure of learning this whole other avenue. But at the same time, I was trying to integrate daily, like, how do I live from this gray state? Because I still had things come up that would bring me back into, like, not darkness, but I mean, after I had my son, I kind of went through a dark night of the soul, but it wasn't the same as before I had the depression that I had as a kid, because this time I knew there was stuff coming up to heal. And I knew I could get back to the gray state. I just wasn't sure of it. But around that time when I had my son, I came across Abraham Hicks with the law of attraction.
Oh, absolutely. We all know who that Abraham is.
Yeah. And what I wasn't even sure about channeling at that time. And I'm totally open to everything now, but
yes,
it was new to me, a new concept. But you listen to the message, and when you hear the message, they were the first. I knew. Sorry, I get so excited when I talk about all this.
That's fine. And that's why I asked you, in your spiritual walk, and being at this high vibration, how are you able to use this in your everyday life? Because I've taken courses in channeling. I'm a galactic energy healer, something like a Reiki energy healer. So when I had my awakening, I started to learn all these modalities, and then I was able to compartmentalize each one of them and move it into my everyday life. For instance, for instance, hypnosis is one of the things I'm certified in. I'm a QQHT, and I'm a certified hypnosis therapist. But when I use some of these modalities, I program my own self just with my voice. And obviously, a lot of those different things too. So I was wondering, how did you use what you learned to help improve what was going on right now?
I love that. I know it's a great question. I'm going to get to that. I guess the key, what made me listen to the Abraham Hicks was, for me personally, I wasn't really sharing this with everybody, but my first 5 years in practice, having the gray state, practicing on these people, I knew I had no way. I evolved out. I'm like, there is no disease. I realized there's no disease except that we believe in it.
Yes,
and I never said that to anybody, because people, I mean, that's a hot topic. Let me tell you, you don't want to just say that to somebody because they get angry.
Yeah.
Because I've been in that position. here I think I'm helping them. And I realize, okay, they're not ready to hear this yet. But yet I can't sit there and have small talk about the drama they're in. So it's a hard place for me to be in. But
Yes.
Abraham Hicks talked about there's no disease. It's because we believe in it. And I was like, oh, I knew it. Like because I was already there, but I didn't know who do you say that to?
And you're
You
right.
know?
I mean, you're absolutely right. Not, every modality that I've ever worked in, when it came to discussing diseases are something that we think. And if we think we have it, we will have it. If we don't think we have it, we won't have it. And if we do have a disease, it's typically because of some type of message that your subconscious is trying to give you. And
Absolutely.
yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Like
And it's
cancer.
not,
Cancer means extreme hate. Someone that you have extreme hate for, or someone or a situation where there's extreme hate. There's a book called So Speak by Julia Cannon, and Julia Cannon has taken over for her mother, Dolores Cannon. And
oh yeah.
Julia has mapped Dolores and Julia have mapped the every disease you can think of. And when Dolores Cannon would have her patients in the somnambulistic state while they were under hypnosis, she would ask the subconscious mind, why does Mary's shoulders hurt so bad? Can we help her? The subconscious would respond through the subject, it's because she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. So they mapped out all of these symptoms with the response from the subconscious mind. So it goes directly to what you're talking about, Dr. Lynn, that, when you have an illness or you think you have one and you don't, you think, it's all about what you think and what you perceive. But if you do have them, they are messages from your subconscious trying to move you to react.
Yes, and I don't want to dishonor what somebody's going through. Like I
Yeah.
always say, if you're having this, but don't look at it as a negative. Like you might
Yes.
have fear, but that's part of the process. The fear's coming up to be released. It's an opportunity for your awakening. I'm thinking if I can have a spine that is not, there's pieces missing. It's not normal, but I don't live in pain anymore. Do you know what I mean? There's hope. Like anything can heal. And that's what we need to start filling our minds with, healing stories. And I
Yes.
guess the basic message of Abraham was learning to be happy changes your vibration. And when I first heard that, I had so much stuff being released after having my son that I had to do more release work. Then I was able to hear that message. So it's almost like it's a continual process of being in the moment.
Yes.
And finding my happiness. And really now I'm so fine-tuned that I know how to get my energy back. And I don't usually let myself go that far out. Like sometimes we have to be like, you have to become symptomatic before you listen to yourself. I don't
Yes.
have to do that anymore. Like I already am so fine-tuned that I'm like, oh, I think I need to rest. I need to rebalance. Or what was that thought? That's really negative. Like it pops up. I'm like, let me reframe that.
Wow. It's just it's amazing once you're able to figure out that you can heal, and then to actually find out it works. and it really, really empowers you, and it continues to help you grow internally so much more stronger. And you mentioned vibration. I have a little trick that I use when I want to raise my vibration if things aren't going right. I think of the inside of my body as pure white light, and I let this light emanate throughout my entire body. And I imagine this throughout my entire car, throughout the entire freeway if I'm driving, or the room if I'm standing, throughout the entire neighborhood. And instantly I get a smile on my face, just, imagining that this white, pure light is encapsulating my entire body and my surroundings.
That's so beautiful.
Yes.
I do something similar. I think I was learning when I was working on people, I was started taking on their stuff. I guess that's what happened to me with Brazil and getting sick. I was taking on all the energy that was coming off, and I learned I have a habit of just putting the white light around me, but I love that you fill yourself up and bring it out. Like I love that. And I do that when I drive too. I put the white light, I ask the angels to protect the car, but I'm like, I love that. I love your vision of the white light through and coming out. That's powerful.
Wow. And I want to let's talk a little bit about your book. And here we
Okay.
go. Here's your book, My Journey to Grace, Shattering Mainstream Illusion and Creating My Desired Life. Let's just talk about the book for a little while and what spurred you to write the book, and the nuggets that are in there, and then you can tell everybody where to buy it and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and put your tag at the bottom.
Awesome.
Mhm.
I wasn't planning. I always thought down the road I would write a book, but when
Mhm.
we got locked up in March of 2020, I was angry. I was angry that we were being locked up. I knew this wasn't right because it wasn't about health. I'm like, health isn't handled like this. This is something's not right here. And I'm like, well, if I'm locked up, I'm going to just start writing. I don't know. I just started writing. I'm like, you know what? People need to hear healing stories right now because they're living in fear. And I'm
Yes.
like, I'm just going to write out my healing story. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. And a friend of mine said, Balboa Press has an avenue for, send it to them and see if you can do self-publishing with them. So I did. And I wasn't planning on it because I didn't feel like my whole story was done because I was still working on the financial side. And for me, every avenue is connected: the health, the wealth, the relationships, and how you express yourself. But I wrote it and I thought, you know what? It's a story of hope. It's healing. And I kind of made it like a blueprint of everything that I have found that affects people's well-being, in myself included, and all the resources that I've used and do, I put in this book. And it's really just my journey. I call it my journey to grace because I was living in so much depression before and then finding the grace state. And I'm like, gosh, if everybody found that grace state within, knew they could heal themselves, knew that the power was within, and to restructure how they do health, how they're flowing their money, how they think about things, how they have people in their lives, not codependent, but interdependent, and it would change the world. And I just wanted it to be one example of me finding my way to inspire others to do the same.
That is awesome. I want to remind the audience, you're listening to The Expansion of Consciousness. Dr. Lynn Carey's on with us. And look at this beautiful book she's written, My Journey to Grace, Shattering Mainstream Illusion and Creating My Desired Life. Guys, go and get this book. She's speaking about a number of different ways you can create or find self-healing within yourself. www.creatingmydesiredlife.com, and that's Dr. Lynn. And if you're tuning in from wherever you are, hit the like button. Okay, subscribe to the channel. We're on YouTube at Expansion of Consciousness. But Dr. Lynn, I want to ask you a question. What do you recommend people do? What do you recommend they do for the ultimate health and well-being? I mean, what do they do?
I think the first place I always tell people is get a journal and start writing. Writing what gratitude is huge. Write what you're grateful for and start writing your inspiration and
Okay.
write exactly what you want your life to look like. And you
Right.
can't leave any parts out. Like some people think, oh, I have this disease, but it might not be coming because of your body. Maybe it's because of a stressful relationship you're in, or you're not happy with your job, or you
Mhm.
feel you don't have enough money coming in, and that's the stress there. So the disease is a way to. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is society gives you permission to stop what you're doing from life if you're sick. So it's like there's something you're not facing, and it could be old wounds, old stuff, mental, the way you think. There's just so many aspects, and the only thing we're taught is to go get a treatment or go get cut something out, and it's just bigger than that. Like you really need to look at all areas of life. So if you start journaling, the answer is within. So I think that's the best place to start, and do it for every area of your life. What you're grateful for, what inspires you, what you want your life to look like. And then if limiting beliefs come up, like you can't, like if something says, oh, I can never do that, or I can't think that way, why? Write it out.
Mm.
That's the best place to start. And then you could of course you can find a mentor, whether it's for health or business or mindset. You can reach out with it, whether it's a book or a person, you can go there. But I always think you got to start within and write out what comes through first.
Yeah, and I was excited to read through a lot of your literature, but the one question I had was, what do you mean when you tell someone to create the desired life or their ultimate well-being? Someone can tell me that, but what am I supposed to do? What does that really mean for me?
One step at a time. But one of my favorite books is Florence Scovel Shinn, The Complete Works.
Yes,
Have you heard of her?
I've heard of her. I hadn't read her work, but I've heard of her.
Okay. She was a metaphysical teacher from like the early 1900s,
Oh,
right?
wow.
It's so cool. And she talks about, I already had this idea. I'm like, every area of your life affects your health. I knew that. But when I read, she says, we all have the divine plan or the divine design of our life or the perfect square of life. It's health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. And that's where I took that from. And it's basically, okay, you got to get your health on track. You got to get your money flowing in a certain way. Really, you got to look at what your relationships are. I mean, I see people who are, we're with family because they're family, but they're draining the life out of us. It's like out of guilt and obligation instead of love and fulfillment. But we can only change ourselves, not the other people. So it's like you got to do the inner work. And then just expression, you got to find what makes you happy. That's your purpose. And when you
Yes.
find that, everything else starts to fall into place. So you have to decide what area you want to start with first
And
and what's
and
the most
also
pressing issue.
embracing the power from within, embracing what you
Yeah.
naturally have.
Yes, and that's why I like the journaling because what comes up for you when you write? What stress or what inspiration? That's probably where you're supposed to start first.
Yes, yes, yes. Finding inner peace and passion and purpose. Those things are very, very important. I'm blown away. And I hope you guys that are out there listening, you understand that all these different areas of your life can affect your health, your mindset, your relationships, your money. Dr. Lynn is telling you these areas, um, you know, they all are intertwined with your health. And if your health is not right, those other areas are going to be affected, and that is for sure.
And can I just give people encouragement? It doesn't have to happen overnight. And if you feel like you're in the darkness, don't think because I know this has happened to me. You think you're failing or you're a failure, or it has to be like, why didn't I get there yet? Or why don't I feel this gray state? Well, don't judge yourself. Allow yourself to have the experience you're having. Embrace all the emotions, and that helps move them through a little faster. That gets you in the flow. I think when we judge ourselves, that's when we get stuck.
Wow. Wow. Shattering mainstream illusions and creating my desired life. It just sounds like if I'm a businesswoman or if I'm a businessman or if I'm an entrepreneur of either gender, that there are different things in this current world that we live in, different illusions. Um, you know, and we look at what we want in life and we really don't know how to get there. We work a good job and we come home every day, but we always know and we feel like there's something more. There's something I'm able to do to just stop feeling so unwanted or depressed, even though I'm doing well in life. And I think that it all starts with, understanding who you are and understanding the powers you possess from within. And Dr. Lynn, you mentioned yoga, and I know that yoga brings a certain level of discipline. Can you talk a little bit about that before we go? How, and I know you advanced past yoga, but what did yoga do to set you up for the next step?
Yeah, I was doing yoga my first 5 years in practice
Mm-hmm.
pretty regularly from a tape at home I had, and then I was going to a class. And
Yes.
for me, it was just really about stretching out my body because my body is can be very tight, and my spine isn't normal, so it is shaped differently than other people. So I always like to stretch it out. But I just got to a place where I just started. I don't know. I started laughing. I think I was in this gray state because I'm like, what am I doing? Like I was doing it so regimentedly. Like I had to do yoga like 3 to 4 times a week at this time, and it was like this routine. And all my routines just fell out the window because I started laughing because I'm like, I already am yoga every moment of my day. My breathing, my mindset, every moment, how I feel peace or passion in the moment, that's yoga. So it shifted for me.
Wow. Well, I am so glad that you gave me a time slot to come and talk with me and talk with the audience of Expansion of Consciousness, so that people can hear you and people can understand you. And I'm going to put this graphic back up once again, Dr. Lynn. Guys, go out there and support Dr. Lynn. My journey to grace, shattering mainstream illusions, and creating my desired life. Think about that topic and start today, and get rid of the things that are in your life that aren't real, and start figuring out a plan that you can implement that can move you for you to have, or for you to live your best life. And Dr. Lynn, do you want to leave the audience with anything before we get out of here?
I guess just expand your mind. What we've been taught, we've been raised in a box, and I guess that's my whole shattering mainstream illusions. There's another way. You might not have it in front of you, but that's been my journey. I've been finding other ways, and there's a lot. And so you just have to expand your mind and be open to the possibilities.
And guys, go and visit Dr. Lynn. I'm gonna show it one more time. www.creatingmydesiredlife.com. There are a number of you out there who want a change in your life. Go and visit Dr. Lynn's website, and maybe she can hook up with you and get a session going, and help you to develop these tools that you have. Everybody has the power from within, and we need to use it. So Dr. Lynn, I'm going to move you to the back room. You stay there now. I'm going to close this thing off with the audience. Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay. Another fabulous speaker, guest of Expansion of Consciousness, embracing the power from within. Guys, finding inner peace, passion, and your purpose. All the areas of your life, mindset, relationship, money, they affect your health. They really affect your health. The importance of creating a desired life for ultimate well-being is important. Those are the questions. Those are the things that Dr. Lynn can help you with. I'm so excited that she came on to the show today. You guys follow her, look her up, buy her book, and begin on fine-tuning your life. And I am so happy that we had this segment, and we will